The family trauma genre is what you get when you blend comedy, drama, and of course, family trauma. And if the TV shows falling in this genre are doing trauma right, there will be characters who easily fit into one clinical traumatic category or another. Today, we're going to go through 5 different archetypes in the family trauma genre. And by no surprise, these are also psychological terms to describe people's real-life traumas. We will then use 2 of my favorite shows in the genre, Arrested Development and Succession, and see if any of our favorite characters fit in this archetype. What up, you guys? I'm Kent E.S. Larwill, and I'm a writer, YouTuber, who talks about everything from philosophy, politics, storytelling, and more. The easiest way to support what I do is to subscribe to this channel and like this video. It's free and takes a second to do. Archetype number 1. The Narcissistic Parent. The first archetype should be an obvious one. This father or mother makes everything about themselves, with no care for the needs of their children. Their gravitational pull brings everyone into their orbit, making them nearly impossible to escape. Their needs, their emotions, their desires are all that matters, as every other family member has to pander to their emotional wounds, while everyone else has to shrink themselves around the abusive parent. They weaponize love, manipulate loyalty, and create children who are broken and desperate for approval. They don't raise children, they groom extensions of themselves. If you know these shows well, then it should be no surprise which characters I'm talking about. In Arrested Development, Lucille is over Mother and Buster, so she always has a plaything at her side. She insults Michael anytime she tries to set healthy boundaries with her, or withhold company funds so she doesn't go on another shopping spree. She constantly berates Job out of disapproval for his life choices, or simply because she feels like it. In Succession, Logan Roy is the quintessential expression of the narcissistic parent. He plays each of his children like chess pieces in his war for business dominance. When he struggles to control them, he finds a way to set them against each other so they are easier to manipulate. When any of them do something he disapproves of, he lashes out in an aggressive or outright physically abusive manner. Archetype number 2, the self-saboteur. They have talent, they have intelligence, they have drive. If only they could get out of their own way, they could be successful. But unfortunately, all they know is getting in their own way. Because of their childhood wounds, they subconsciously find a way to set themselves up for failure. Why? Because they are afraid of what may happen if they don't succeed, as they also worry about succeeding and not knowing what to do next. Because they are afraid of what may happen if they don't succeed, as they are also worried about succeeding and not knowing what to do next. Out of fear and a sense of comfort, they choose failure for themselves because failure feels familiar, and if they fail by their own hands, then they will at least feel control of planning their own failure. In Arrested Development, George Michael is a smart kid with lots of potential, but his lack of self-confidence leaves him to fail honoring himself by putting others ahead of his own needs. Out of duty to help his family or his father, he puts aside his own happiness to do what others want him to do. You also see his crush on Mamie ruin his other relationships. He dates Anne, but due to his admiration for his cousin, he finds a way to sabotage his current relationship in an attempt to be with Mamie. In Succession, Kendall finds a way to rise and then fall in spectacular fashion. His ego and ambition causes him to make overly bold plays, like trying to overthrow his father at the board meeting when he barely has enough support to do so. His addiction causes him to embarrass himself and damage those around him. This leads to even more guilt as he beats himself up over it so that he can never rise again. Kendall's Shakespearean tragedy is that he knows he's sabotaging himself, and yet he still chooses to get in his own way. Archetype number 3, the Golden Child. They are seen as the one hope for the whole family, the fixer, the future, the one who will save everyone from themselves. They can do no wrong. In fact, they are the shining example of everything that is right that everyone else should aspire to be like. They are praised and pedestalized, but are also put under immense pressure to deliver as the weight of the family expectations crushes them from excessive demands. In Arrested Development, Michael is the only one keeping the family business and the family together. He's tasked with balancing the books, contending with lawyers in ongoing investigations against the company, while also keeping every out-of-control family member in check. Michael is the one set out to do the impossible, save his own family from ruin, and although his siblings and parents would never admit it, they all see him in this very light. In Succession, Logan Roy's parenting style isn't one to really set one kid as a golden child, but if there was one, it would be Shiv. Logan calls her the smart one, the one with field experience in politics who can think outside the box. He grooms her as his intellectual heir and promises her control of the company. Shiv is promised everything the golden child normally gets. It is only due to her father's self-interest that she never gets any of it. Archetype number 4, the coddled kid. This kid failed to grow up either because mommy and daddy spoiled him or due to being outshined by other siblings or an amalgamation of the two. It can often be the youngest, but not always, depending on the family dynamics. Because someone else always solved problems for them, they never learn to solve problems on their own, and therefore always rely on others to do things for them. Overmothered, given enough comfort to live, but never taught life experiences to thrive or even survive on their own. In Arrested Development, no character is more archetypically the coddled kid than Buster. He's an adult who still lives with his mother and seems to be incapable of doing anything on his own without catastrophic consequences. He lives under Lucille's thumb, answering to her beck and call. Another placeholder who fits the mold of the coddled kid is Lindsay. Her entitlement and living in excess well over her own means demonstrates an adult who never learned to be financially responsible, since the company card would always get her out of any problem she came across. In Succession, we can see Connor taking the role of the coddled kid. He does live on his own, but that is only because of his immense wealth he inherited from his father's success. Although each of the Roy kids are delusional in their own way, Connor especially seems lacking in self-awareness or is aloof to how basic reality works. He treats his relationship as a completely transactional affair, sees himself as the responsible big brother despite his immaturity, and even has delusions of grandeur to becoming president as an independent candidate, despite everyone around him seeing him as a nuts. Archetype number 5 is the scapegoat. In complete opposition to the golden child is the family punching bag everyone can't get enough of beating up. The scapegoat takes all the blame, guilt, and emotional abuse. They give everyone else in the family a chance to project their own unresolved trauma into them so they can feel better about themselves. Everyone simultaneously points the finger at them and says they're the problem. This way, no one else has to take any accountability for their own shortcomings. In Arrested Development, Job is everyone's designated disaster. He is most certainly responsible for a lot of his own fuck-ups, but everyone else burdens him as the failure for their own mistakes. They exploit his incompetence as an excuse for anything that goes wrong, so no one else ever has to be in the spotlight of shame. He then performs as the fool since it is the only way he knows how to belong. In Succession, Roman becomes the court jester and sometimes the literal punching bag. He's mocked, humiliated, and even dismissed as inferior to others at the table. He's blamed for all the chaos when the chaos is systematically engineered by Logan. We also see Roman's trauma responses fit perfectly into the scapegoat archetype. His jokes to help lighten the mood, his kink for verbal shaming, his avoidant behavior, and even his yearning for love from damaged people. Those are 5 archetypes you can find in the family trauma genre. If you look at all other shows in the genre, you can at least find a few of these in every family. And if you're brave enough, you can even take a look at your own family and see who fits into which archetype where. And even braver than that, see which archetype you fit into yourself. As always, thanks for watching. And if you like that video, then you can check out my book where I talk about that and many other issues that might help you. It's got a title so edgy, I'm not even sure if I can say it on YouTube. So check it out in the description. And as always, if you want, you can like, subscribe, and all that other fun stuff. More videos coming, of course.